What's up? What's happening? Welcome back to Broadcast Table. It's been a while since we did one of these sit-down videos, but here we are. We're going through every team's weirdest NHL All-Star. So, we have some weird ones because now every team needs one guy selected, so there's going to be some little bit different ones, guys that probably shouldn't have been All-Stars. And then in the early 2000s, there was these world versus North America teams, so you're going to see a lot of random guys you never heard of probably. And mine is only going from 2000 to 2023. So with some of the older guys, I don't even know who they are. And I'll be straight up and honest, because I do know hockey pretty well, I'd say, but some of these guys never even heard of. So without further ado, we're going to go through every team's weirdest All-Star and explain why they're weird and why I put them on this list. Starting off with the Anaheim Ducks, we got Rickard Rakell. Rickard Rakell, pretty solid player, but you go through their list of All-Stars, really not too many crazy players you can go from. There is not too many weird players you can go from. You got Corey Perry, Ryan Getzlaf, Teemu Selanne, Paul Kariya, Niedermayer, Prong. I don't think Pronger got one with them, actually, but they have so many, top tier players. You're not picking them. So it's either Rickard Rakell, J.S. Giguère, who was awesome, and I love Giguère, and Jonas Hiller. So I decided to go with Rickard Rakell. You wouldn't really typically think of Rickard Rakell as an all-star player. The 2018 season, he did make it. He had a pretty good year, but he wasn't over 70 points, which that was around my barrier for forwards. But Rickard Rakell is the Anaheim Ducks choice. Up next for the Coyotes, it's Yannick Perreault. Pretty good player. I don't know too much about him, not going to lie to you, but he was the choice in 2007. I never would have thought he would have been an all-star. Pretty good career, though, when I looked at his stats. Better than I expected. But I wasn't going to pick, Clayton Keller or Oliver Ekman-Larsson because they were good players for a long time, especially in my era. So, a little weird. I didn't really know Perreault too much when doing the research, so that's what I went with him. I think the other option was, Jeremy Roenick and maybe Sean Burke, both incredible players as well. So, Yannick Perreault is the option for Arizona. His son's also, I think, was on Sony. I think he got drafted by the Ducks. Jacob, I think. I'm not too sure about that, though. Up next, for the Boston Bruins, we have Nick Boynton. Now, Nick Boynton, was a very good defenseman for a very long time. He was a solid defenseman. Very good, maybe a bit of an overstatement here, but he was an NHL defenseman for, I think, 12 years. Never would have expected him to be an all-star. But in 2004, he was an all-star. I think he put up around 32 points that year, and he probably was an injured replacement guy, one of those. But Nick Boynton, he had a very good career. Seen a few of his fights on hockeyfights.com. But yeah, I would not expected him to be an all-star. So that one caught me by surprise there. Good old Zemgus Girgensons for the Buffalo Sabres. Now, this one's pretty famous, as the entire country of Austria spam voted for Zemgus Girgensons to make the All-Star game in 2015. Pretty good story, pretty fun story, in fact. But in 2016, he's like, guys, don't do that again. But in 2015, it was a fun and good story. And good for Zemgus. He's definitely not an all-star caliber player, but he's had a good career and still in the league. So, good for him. Fun story. Memorable story. Hopefully we get some more of that coming up soon. They tried doing it with Ryan Reeves this year. It just didn't work. Up next for Calgary, we have David Rittich. Calgary didn't have anyone too notable out there, and David Rittich's a fine goalie. The 2020 season, he was very good, and he was deserving to be an all-star. But if you would have said David Rittich was an all-star, and you're not a Calgary Flames fan, you probably would have been a little surprised, and you probably would have forgot about it by now. So I picked David Rittich. Decent career. He's on Winnipeg now, backup goalie. But, David Rittich was an all-star. That one did forget about myself. Up next, we have Noah Hanifin. So, once we get later down the list, you're going to see a lot of names you don't know. So, I'm trying to keep the ones I was 50-50 on with the current guys. And Noah Hanifin is one of them. I wouldn't have thought that he would have been an all-star of the team with Sebastian Aho. I think that was Svechnikov's rookie year. Might be wrong about that. But Noah Hanifin, that was before he even broke out with Calgary too, obviously, because he's on Carolina. Statistically, it wasn't even that great of a year. I know, for defense, it's kind of hard because, they don't only score goals. Because look at Adam Pelch. He was in the All-Star game last year, and he is not an offensive defenseman. Also, the older All-Star games before the whole 3-on-3 stuff, You didn't have to be a skill guy to make it, but for the most part, you had to put up points. But for Noah Hanifin, I think, this was for the 3-on-3 All-Star game, so it was kind of interesting seeing him picked over a guy like maybe Sebastian Aho, for example. But that's why I went with Noah Hanifin. We have good old Seth Jones here for the Chicago Blackhawks. Now, Seth Jones is a weird one because he's quite bad. Now, every team needs a representative. Sure, they could have won with Max Domi's having a good year. Patrick Kane, obviously. Even Jonathan Toews is having a bit of a bounce-back year. But Seth Jones was the guy who got the call. I don't know how you guys feel about that. I've seen a lot of Chicago fans complaining about him constantly. Harder shot, he looked pretty brutal. Put up 2 absolute weak shots. I mean, what could I say? He shot the puck 94 and 93 miles per hour. I can't ever do that. Can't do that one. So you have that one on me, Seth. But you probably shouldn't have been here, but you're here, so enjoy it. Enjoy it, I guess. The other options were like Jocelyn Thibault, who I feel like was a pretty solid goalie, and Eric Days, who do we really want to talk about Eric Days on the channel right now when we're gonna be forced to talk about worst players in a little bit. So Seth Jones, congratulations on being a weird all-star. Up next, we have Paul Stastny, and this is no disrespect to Paul Stastny, but go through the Colorado Avalanche's All-Star Game selection list. McKinnon, Rantanen, Makar, Patty Waugh, Joe Sakic, Milan Hajduk. I'm forgetting some guys. Peter Forsberg. It's all superstars and generational talents. Paul Stastny was an All-Star in 2008. He's not a generational talent or a superstar. So that's why I had to pick him. Very good player, incredible career, just not a superstar like the other guys. Now, here's our first one where I doubt you know this guy. Espen Gunnarsson. He was a part of the North America versus World All-Star Game in 2002. He's from Denmark, if I'm correct. He's only played like 100 NHL games. He only played like 100 NHL games. Was in the All-Star game because he was from Norway. No, Norway, not Denmark. Mea culpa. Norway. Yeah, I definitely shouldn't have been there, but hey, congrats on your fun weekend. Espen Gunnarsson. Never heard of the guy. But nice go for bucket, so he gets points there. Up next, we have Philippe Boucher. Boucher had a pretty long career. I didn't know too much about this guy, so I was a little bit shocked when I saw he was an All-Star for the Dallas Stars. I believe he was on the Pittsburgh Penguins Cup-winning team, or he might have been the one that lost against the Detroit. I'm not too sure about that, but he had a decent, he had a lengthy career, but he never put up stats too crazy. I know he had 2 really good years with the Dallas Stars, where he was working their power play. He did win 1 Stanley Cup, I believe, and I'm pretty sure that was with the Penguins. But Philippe Boucher, I don't know too much about this guy. I don't really hear too much about him, but they had a few other options. Like, I wasn't going to pick Louis Eriksson because he actually put up like a few 70-point seasons with the Stars. Wasn't going to put up Morty Turco, obviously. Stefan Robida, he played way too long. I think he played like 16 years, so I felt kind of Do I want to crap on the guy who has his own island named after him for LTIR purposes? I went with Philippe Boucher here. Up next, we have one of our first former Islanders in Frans Nielsen. Now, you go through the Detroit Red Wings list, it's superstar after generational talent, and Frans Nielsen is not that. And also, how did Frans Nielsen make the All-Star game? 2017, he left the Islanders. 26, I think that's the first year he was there in Detroit after he left the Islanders. Great career for Franzi. He's playing in Europe now, but I kind of forgot he was an All-Star, and myself love Franzi. One of the best shootout guys of all time, but All-Star, probably not. Great player, though. Great career. Would not have expected him to be an All-Star, especially for such a storied team like the Detroit Red Wings. Up next, we have another former Islander, kind of a trend going on here, Eric Brewer. So the Islanders drafted this guy in the first round, and he was known for being I wouldn't want to say a thug, but a goon. Very tough guy, tough defenseman. And I would not have expected him to be an All-Star in 2003. Because I think the Islanders drafted him 98 or 99. Could have been early 2000s, but they got rid of him, and then he went on to be an All-Star right away. So, good job, Mike Milbury. Up next, our third former Islander in a row, Victor Kozlov. Another guy who he actually had a pretty solid career, but Florida really had no one too crazy. It was like Sandis Ozerdilish. I said that name. I butchered that name terribly, but he was a very good defenseman. Ozerdilish. He was an all-star on so many different teams. Russian defenseman, really good. Don't know how to pronounce his name. Never heard his name pronounced, so I'll have to learn that one. My bad. But Viktor Kozlov, another former Islander, like I said, he was a player on the Worlds team in 2000. He had a solid career, but who am I going to pick from him? Barkov, Huberdeau, Luongo. They didn't have too many All-Stars, but the ones they had, like Pavel Bure, were so much better than Viktor Kozlov, so that's why he's the weird option here. Sorry, I don't want to say bad, because I felt that's a little mean. They're NHL players. They deserve a little bit of respect. Maybe a little bit more respect than I gave Seth Jones, but oh well. Up next for the LA Kings, we have Adrian Kempe, another kind of victim of circumstances. I could use another old guy from the Worlds. I think his name is Marcus Nordstrom or something. Never heard of the guy. Or I could use Adrian Kempe. So I went to the modern day for this one. Adrian Kempe, solid player, having a very good year this year, but he probably shouldn't have been an All-Star. But he did. This happens. Guys have okay starts to the year, good starts to the year, and they make the All-Star game. But his season stat line just wasn't really All-Star-esque. I think he had like around 58, 59 points. He definitely didn't hit that 70-point marker, and if he did, it's kind of a one-off, because if you look back at the Kings teams, you'd be like, oh, Kopitar or Doughty usually. You would not expect Adrian Kempe to be an All-Star for them. I think that's fair. Up next for the Minnesota Wild, you got Philippe Kuba. Never would have picked Philippe Kuba to make an All-Star game. I know he had a long career, before my time, of course, but I remember more of the end of his career. Did not remember anything from 2004. I was only 3 years old, so I picked Philippe Kuba. That was the most surprising name to me. They had a few other guys like Cam Talbot, but he's had some good years. They had a few, Devin Dubnyk, but he was an All-Star like 3 times, so there is one guy that's on this list that was an All-Star 3 times, so we'll get to him in a little bit, though. Up next, one of the most famous, bad, or weird All-Star selections, Yuri Sekic. Now, Yuri Sekic played, I think, 2 or 3 years in the NHL. 2015, he didn't even have that good of a year. He had a decent start, but, he's from Montreal, and the Habs fans claimed him as the next big thing. He was friends with Thomas Plekanec, and he did make the All-Star game in 2015. I was so confused when I was looking back at that roster, because I barely remember this guy, but now I do recall that he was on that All-Star team and in that All-Star game. He literally was here for like 3 years, and he went back to Europe, I'm pretty sure. Just a very weird circumstance that Yuri Sekic was on the All-Star team in 2015. Pretty sure that was the one in Columbus as well, so. Up next, we have Mr. 3-time All-Star himself, James Neal. Now, James Neal had an incredible NHL career. He's still trying to kick it around, but Nashville had too many good players. Who am I going to pick from Nashville? Paul Kariya? It was between James Neal and Thomas Vokoun. I'm not putting on my boy Forsberg. I'm not putting on Yossi. It's either James Neal or Thomas Vokoun, and I picked James Neal here, so sorry, James Neal. Great career, great career. But you're a victim of circumstance here, playing for another younger franchise. Well, I guess most of these teams were before the year 2000, like Nashville, but they had too many good players, so hold. Up next, we have Brian Boyle in 2018. This one, a little sad. He made it mainly because his battle with cancer. I'm not sure what cancer specifically, but I remember this one. I love Brian Boyle, so this one I was a little iffy on, but I was told to put Brian Boyle on for the purposes of this video. Brian Boyle had cancer, and that's why he kind of made the All-Star team. If you look at his stats, you're like, oh, how did they make it like that? But obviously it was because he came back from his battle with cancer, played the rest of the year, so applause to Brian Boyle for beating cancer, standing up to cancer, and he was there. Well, he created one of the greatest moments in hockey I've ever seen when he scored on Hockey Fights Cancer Night at the Prudential Center. So I'm a big Brian Boyle fan, but I felt like I was told by some people, I was asking, like, you should probably put Brian Boyle in and just explain why. So, you know what? Good job, Brian Boyle, for beating cancer, and congrats on the All-Star appearance, but he will be on this list. Up next for the New York Islanders, Bo Horvat. Now, why is Bo Horvat a weird all-star? He's wearing an Islander jersey, and I think he's going to be wearing an Islander patch tonight, but he played in the Pacific Division. Well, he will be playing in the Pacific Division. I think this is the first time it's obviously ever happened, because we traded for him during the All-Star break, and he was an All-Star for the Canucks. So the Canucks don't have an All-Star. Hold that. Bo Horvat is ours. I'm so happy about the trade. My guy, Bo. Our guy, Bo. Our Long Island Bo. We gave up a Bo to get a better Bo. But jokes aside, Bo Horvat, it's kind of weird. He will be playing for the Pacific Division with the Islanders patch. That's what gave him the weird one. There's a few options for the Islanders. I know I put Bailey in the title, get clickbaited, haha. I don't want to give the entire list away, but Bo Horvat. Yes, no John Scott either, because he wasn't on a team technically speaking, so tough. But it is what it is. Bo Horvat, New York Islander, baby. Now for the Rangers, I went Dan Girardi. Solid career, but injuries really took a toll on him, and I guess you could say decreased his level of play. They had a lot of guys they could have went with like Tom Pody, Mark Stahl, a few other guys that had like one and dones. Mike York, I think, was even an all-star, but I figured to go Dan Girardi because I know Ranger fans hated him towards the end of his career. I know they hate everyone towards their end of their careers, ironically, but I went Dan Girardi because I felt like Mark Stahl was too good for the Rangers for too long. But Dan Girardi was solid during their playoff runs, but that one kind of caught me by surprise with all the hate he's gotten over the years. Up next, we have Milan Michalek of the Ottawa Senators. Solid career, but guy shouldn't have been an all-star. He was only an all-star because they had the all-star game in Ottawa in 2012. Basically, enough said. Up next, we have Roman Cechmanek of the Philadelphia Flyers. Almost said Eagles. They're going to be in the Super Bowl this week. Or next week, I guess. But never heard of this guy. He was the world's goaltender, and he only played 100 games in the NHL, or maybe 200 or 300. He was only there for a few years, had a quick cup of coffee, and dipped. Up next for the Penguins, we have Tristan Jarry. Another guy, two-time All-Star here, victim of circumstance. Who am I going to pick? Am I going to pick James Neal again? No. Well, maybe. Am I going to pick Crosby, Malkin, Lemieux? They've had too many good players for a long time, Sergei Gonchar, to where it had to be Tristan Jarry. Tristan Jarry has been good this year as well. He's been an All-Star twice, and he's been good. Ooh, is he an All-Star? No, he's not an All-Star this year. All-Star twice, and he's having a very good year this year. But he's had his moments where he's a bad goalie, and everyone kind of thinks of him as a bad goalie still. So, weird that he is an All-Star, and kind of a victim of circumstance. Sorry, Jarry. My friend, my pal, Jordan Eberle for the Seattle Kraken. It's either him or Matty Beniers, and Beniers has already had more points than Eberle did last year, I'm pretty sure. So, am I going to pick Beniers or Eberle? Went Eberle, obviously. For the San Jose Sharks, we got Marcus Ragnarsson. He played a bunch of years in the NHL. Never heard of this guy before my time once again. But looking at his stats, he probably shouldn't have been an All-Star. But good for him that he was an All-Star. No clue anything about him, so I really can't say too much. But Marcus Ragnarsson for the San Jose Sharks. For the Blues, we got Roman Turek. Once again, they've always had good veteran players like Keith Tkachuk. I think Doug Weight was an All-Star there. Maybe even Bill Guerin, Pietrangelo, Ryan O'Reilly, Tarasenko. Even Pronger. So Roman Turek, that one kind of caught me off guard. I'd heard of his name before through hockey cards. Didn't know too much about him, so I figured I'd put him in here. And I didn't think there's any other weird options besides Roman Turek. That one caught me by surprise. Not my best editing job either there. It was 2 a.m. Give me a break. Up next for the Tampa Bay Lightning, we have Fredrik Modin. Another guy who's kind of a victim of circumstances. He played for the World's team in 2001, but after that, it's literally Vinny Lecavalier, Martin St. Louis, Stamkos, Kucherov, Hedman, all these top-notch superstar guys. So it's kind of Freddie Modin, you're kind of screwed here, buddy. Congrats on making the All-Star game, though. Up next, Leo Komarov, Uncle Leo. This is one of the reasons I made this video. Leo Komarov was an All-Star in 2016, the John Scott year. The Leafs were so bad. It was just so funny to think about Leo Komarov being an All-Star. Love Leo, Islander, folklore legend, but He was an all-star. That's incredible to think about. Good for Leo. Love Leo. Hope he's doing good in Europe. For Vancouver, I picked Thatcher Demko. Now, they really didn't have too many options to go with, and I figured I'd go with Demko. Some people think he's still really good. Some people think he's really bad. So it kind of depends how you look at it. I know he gets no help from his defense, but he doesn't help himself either. I get that. I don't know. They had too many good guys like the Sundins, Quinn Hughes, Pedersen, Brock Besser, and I felt it was either Besser or Demko. I might be forgetting a few, but Marcus Naslund. I went with Demko. Unlucky. We got a reoccurring guest on this one. James Neal for the Vegas Golden Knights. So it's literally either James Neal, Pietrangelo, Mark Stone, or Chandler Stevenson, and I like Chandler Stevenson a lot. And James Neal only had 44 points the year he was an All-Star, so I had to go James Neal here. Once again, great career, so I had to, put him on here twice. He's a very good player, but James Neal or Chandler Stevenson, who already has more points than he did the year he was an All-Star. And it probably only made it because of one, probably the teams were forced to have one, and James Neal was their best player at that time. Even though they went to the Stanley Cup Final that year. Was it? Yeah, it was. It was. Up next, we have the Washington Capitals, who have Dennis Wideman. Dennis Wideman, was not expecting to see his name here. I kind of forgot he was a Washington Capital. Congrats on feeding over the puck. But, he's had a very good career, so I don't want to shit on him too much here. And last but not least, Tobias Enstrom. Now, he went with not the Winnipeg Jets, but their, whatever we're going to call it, their former team in the Atlanta Thrashers. Solid career, long career, but did not expect him to make it out of the Winnipeg Jets, Atlanta Thrashers era. So that's the video. Hope you guys enjoyed. If you did, leave a like, subscribe. Let me know if you guys like these videos. Peace out, everybody.